If you're building your ABA company and you're tired of guessing, this is for you. We built the EBCBA blueprint to give you real structure, systems, and support without the fluff. Details are in the description.
We'll hand the reins over to Stacy here shortly, but it's all about the highest and best use, right? In real estate, you look at a piece of land and you want to analyze and figure out what the highest and best use of that land is, because it's an asset and it's a scarce asset, right? But what's even more scarce than land is your time, because you only get so much, and we don't know how much we get. Like, we don't know how long we're going to be able to operate for. So it should be, when you're a business owner, you have to look at every minute that you spend and decide, is this the highest and best use for my time? Make a flow chart. Is this something that I get joy from doing? If no, am I getting paid? If no, then don't do it anymore. If it's helping somebody, then that's good. But if you are getting paid, right, if it is generating revenue, is there some way that you can not do it and generate more revenue, or have it cost you less? And we look at this from a standpoint of time management is always a problem. But a lot of times the biggest problem with time management is they're just doing too much. Like, you have too much on your plate. And there's plenty of people who could sit down and do their own billing. Is it possible? Sure. Not a big deal. You can do your own taxes. You can get on YouTube and figure out how to change your own oil in your car. You can do all kinds of great stuff. If your stove breaks, you could probably, figure out how to fix it. But man, rather than spending an entire Saturday, instead of hanging out with your family or, getting to the beach and getting some stress relief, dismantling your stove in your kitchen is probably not the highest and best use of your entire weekend, when you can probably pay somebody $200 to come out and fix it anyway. Right. So it's all about buying back that time. I think there's a book called Buy Back Your Time, right? So getting that time back, having it assigned to somebody who is a professional who can really, stabilize that process for you, and just get it off your to-do list. That's what's going to clear up your calendar.
Well, and Derek, another thing is, you may only have 10 codes that you're billing with, but let's say you have 15 payers. 15 payers treat those codes differently, and they have a multitude of denial reasons that they use. So you need to understand all of those reasons. You need to understand, by payer, what does that specific code mean? How are they going to process it, that specific code? And when they deny it, what do they mean from this payer to this payer? And we'll talk about that in the presentation, but it's not just about the 10 codes. It's way more than just those 10 codes that you're billing for. It's the overall knowledge that you have to have in managing the 10 codes with your payers, with your organization, and ensuring that you have enough profit to continue to grow your organization. So it's not about just 10 codes. It's about all of it.
It's about an entire discipline, a realm of knowledge and expertise that, you can take it on yourself, but are you going to change your own oil or whip in a Jiffy Lube and get it done in 10 minutes? How are you going to spend your time? All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. We got a good turnout today. All right, so you kind of heard us in the green room here, just kind of talking about, what do we do to manage our time? What are things that we can take off of our own plate and get to a point where we can pass this off to someone else and outsource it? But all the people that we have on this team here are our ABA Impact Team, this informal group of people that are all just gathering here on our live streams and talking about the things that you guys can do and use to get better at these little different areas of your business. And then as you scale, delegate them, get them out of your wheelhouse, get those onto your org chart, get it into a role, outsource the role, get these things off your schedule where you can do the things that pay you the most or that you enjoy the most. And this is going to basically pull you further back from that brink of just absolute owner burnout. And that's where we're at. That's where we want to make sure that you guys aren't in debt, grinding out on a daily basis, barely making it by, and then some private equity company comes in and offers to get you out of debt and take over your business, and now you're working for them again. That's not what we want. We want you guys, your small private clinics, even if you're wanting to grow and scale, we want you guys to do it. We want BCBA ran, operated therapy centers, and we're going extinct. And we shouldn't be. We should be growing. We've got our ASD diagnostic rate is like this, and the growth of the industry is only like this. So we've got to do something to fill in this gap here and make sure that we're getting the services out there for the people who need it to improve our society overall. So today, our ABA Impact team member is Stacy Calvaruso with ASP RCM. We've already had one of their team members on talking about credentialing. So go back through the pinned reels and check that out. The concept of taking care of your own billing and doing this process in-house is difficult, but Stacy's here to contribute her expertise and her time to help you deal with that situation while you have to, or if you feel like you have to, just avoiding claim denials in the first place. So how do you avoid getting to the point where now you're going back and doing double, triple, quadruple, I'm sure in some places 10 times the work on a claim? Do it right the first time and avoid that completely. So Stacy, we can't tell you how grateful we are for your time. We love doing these. I love all you guys for showing up. And Stacy, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Dick. I really appreciate it. So as he said, I'm Stacy Calvaruso. I am with ASPRCM. I will be perfectly honest and tell you that I literally grew up in the revenue cycle. It wasn't always in this particular environment, but I started as a candy striper at a hospital when I was 14 years old. My second day on the job, they put me in the emergency department. And from that moment forward, I loved it. I have loved medicine my entire life, but I just did not want to be in the icky part of the medicine. I always wanted to support medicine. And I quickly realized that there were multiple jobs and multiple trades that it takes to run the business of medicine. Whether you can be a carpenter and work for a hospital, or a healthcare organization. You can be an electrician. You can be a CFO, someone in finance, someone in accounting. You can be a phone technician. You can be anything that you want to be. But in healthcare, we need all of it. So I chose the business of medicine because I absolutely loved it. And I really thrive on the fight with the payers, just to be perfectly honest. I thrive when I have to resolve an issue and find a solution. So in my years, I have gone through and worked with many amazing organizations that have allowed me the ability to flex myself and do those types of things. So I'm with ASP RCM now. And what I'm trying to do today is I just want to share some of my knowledge and experience with you, because as we were talking about earlier, time management is important. So, in some instances, you guys are the ones, you and your team members are the ones that are working and seeing denials. And there's nothing more stressful than owning an organization and you're putting in your hard sweat equity into this organization and you're just feeling that you're not getting paid. I have owned and sold a couple of organizations. I feel it, I know it, and I understand it. So I know how that feels when payroll comes around, when those quarterly taxes come around, and you have to sit back and sometimes you go, is it worth it? Am I doing the right thing? Am I really where I need to be? And if you have those questions, what I advise you to do is to step back and think about, if you were not in that position, who else would be there for those patients? I had a long conversation many, many years ago with a very wise provider, and I overheard him telling another provider those exact words. If you were not in the position that you're in today, who else would be doing that for that patient? So think about that as you're feeling that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about avoidance is the key to rejections and denials, not how to clean them up necessarily, but how to avoid them. Because going back to our time management discussion, I want to save you time. I want to save effort. I want to help you streamline and ensure that things are being done the way they're supposed to be done up front. Is all of this information brand new, breathtaking, amazing information you've never seen before? Probably not. You've probably seen some of this before, but I've tried to put it all in one cohesive presentation for you so that it helps you go to some reference materials, something for you to be able to see it in a quick and short format. So we're going to do common denials in ABA, some examples of various types. So I picked the top 6 that we see. So we do a lot of ABA billing in our organization, and we have a ton of practices. So we can extrapolate data and look at what are the top denials across all of the practices that we provide services for. And then I have some information about avoiding and preventing denials, and then denial metrics. And one of the things that you're going to take with you is there is a handout on denial metrics that you're going to get today that helps you with how do you look at denial metrics and what are the formulas? So one thing to think about, if you have revenue cycle or billing, some people just call it billing. If you have billing and collection or revenue cycle challenges, it's nothing more than a mirror image of a root cause issue at the beginning of the revenue cycle. So, in other words, if you are having denials on the back end, one of the root causes are probably items, and you'll see this in the denials, things that are happening at registration or pre-registration or pre-treatment to a patient. So it's just a mirror image. You're just seeing the result of what happened on the back end. You've probably heard it before. You cannot have someone repeat this enough to you, but it is a mirror image of what happens on the front end. Don't take it personal. Make sure that you understand that. So basic root causes are the categories of denials, registration related, and those top 3 items are data entry mistakes. And in many instances, it could be that the person is not actually keying in the information. We're having a issue with a particular client software system that just popped up in this last 40 days, where their software did an update, but they got new cards for Blue Cross. Unfortunately, the card scan reader, when it scans the ID card, it is scanning the ID information incorrectly off of the Blue Cross card. The person that's registering the patient, or if you have a kiosk and the patient self-register, they're not noticing it. It doesn't, they're showing that they gave their information. But in billing, as that claim goes out the door, a Z is looking like a different letter, or a 0 is looking like an O, or an E is looking like a C, or things like that. So it could be a system error and not necessarily a human error. So you dig deep into that. Insurance ineligibility, that is something that can be avoided. Data entry mistakes can be avoided as well when it's not a system related issue. And then non-covered services. Again, that can be avoided if we're doing a good enough check on insurance and verifying our coverages and things like that. Missing authorizations. That is one of the most frustrating things for me. Missing authorizations and timely filing denials. I hate those. Completely hate them. I've hated those all my life. Do I fight payers for them? Yes, I do. But in many instances, it's a fight that you don't win. And we'll talk about timely filing things a little bit later. But missing authorizations and errors with authorizations, that is another issue. Coding errors. So missing the appropriate modifier, or your place of service is not correct. So if you had a telephone encounter versus an in-person encounter, things like that, I see those types of errors. And then incorrect code usage. So not putting the correct code on there. So let's say there was a code change, et cetera. It's not on there and it's not filed correctly. And then billing filing errors. So a lot of those are avoidable, but some of them are systemic issues, like your software system may have a problem. There may be an issue going on. So that's where you have to get into your root cause analysis process to see what that is. And then credentialing or provider issues. So those are the categories of denials. And yes, we can say avoidable versus non-avoidable. And it's up to you and your organization to do that review to determine in your organization, was it avoidable or was it unavoidable? And start tracking what was avoidable, what was unavoidable, so that you can see, how is your organization doing? Are we improving? Are we standing still, or are we degrading? That's what we need to look at. So I told you that I was going to be able to share with you some of the top denials that are in ABA, and this was taken across various areas when we got clients. So we've had some new clients join us in the last 6 months. And one of the things that we do when we get a new client is we do a look back at their denial. So a look back would tell us, okay, what has been going on? What were the denials? What were the reason codes? What's going on? So I put the top 6 items. Some of these could have been things that are just recent items that are going on. So I compared this to what we see in the industry out there. So I'm really confident that this is the solid 6 that everybody's experiencing. So let's just kind of talk about that. So when your claim lacks information, CARC 16, so a CARC. So this is the code that the payers put on their explanation of benefits that tell you why something was denied. So there's CARC codes and WARC codes, reason codes. But we're going to stick with the CARC, CARC codes first, the top CARC codes. And when you have a CARC code, there can be an additional reason that is listed on an explanation of benefits that will give you a little bit more information. But one of the things to keep in mind is that just because you have a CARC 16 from United Healthcare, it doesn't mean that you have figured out the magic potion on how to handle CAR 16s for every single payer. Because every single payer, while they're required to use the CARC 16 code, their interpretation and usage of that code is unique to them. So CARC 16, there is a code that is supposed to be followed that says claim or service lacks information or has a submission and billing error. So some payers say, okay, we're going to apply this code if we're missing a modifier, if we're missing a CPT or a diagnosis code. We've seen some payers apply this code when they're missing the medical records or when they're missing an authorization, even though there's a code specifically for pre-cert and authorization missing. They'll still use the CARC 16 versus using the CARC 197. It depends on the payer and how they built their software system. So understanding the payers that you're working with is what's going to really help you determine how to prevent your denials. So doing a denial analysis, such as taking those top codes and really reviewing by payer exactly what they're asking for in the instance as to why they denied it, that's going to be what is going to help your organization. So the reason for this most commonly is they're missing CPT modifiers or diagnosis codes. So prevention, making sure that you're double checking your claim is accurate and complete, and it matches the payer's guidelines. Again, going back, making sure that this payer wants these modifiers. So, for example, right now we have a situation where Caroline wants a modifier on something and HPCS does not want a modifier on something, or vice versa. It's the same code, but one payer wants the modifier, one payer does not want the modifier. So you have to understand that particular payer's guidelines. How do you get to that level of understanding? You use the payer's guidebooks and you work with your payer representative. And you also evaluate the denials that you've received before and what you've done to fix the issue. So there's no magic trick for it other than digging in and understanding it so that you can prevent it and avoid it in the future. So CARC 96, non-covered charges. So the services was not covered under the patient's insurance policy, or it's excluded under their benefits. And this happens a lot, unfortunately, because people that are not as experienced with verifying ABA therapy and ABA protocols, they may call and just say, does this person have coverage, this type of coverage? Do they have mental health or do they have therapy services? And they're not getting specific enough and trying to verify if that protocol or that therapy treatment plan for that patient is covered. So making sure that when you're doing your verification of benefits and you're getting the authorization, that you're getting exactly an authorization for the services that you're going to be performing. One of the things, and I have this probably a little bit later in here, is as soon as you get any type of denial or pushback from the payer, if they say, for example, they want to only give you 20 visits versus 24, and I'm just using that as an example, you immediately say, no, we're requesting 24. You can go ahead and approve 20, but I want you to deny the 4. And then you immediately start an appeal for the 4. Don't change your treatment plan because the payer wants you to only provide this. Because what you're doing is you're setting a precedent that says, hey, we can provide this service in this number of visits. So just a little tip there for you. But making sure that you check your policy limitations and exclusions. Do they have a limitation or is something specifically excluded? And that is really important to know when you're verifying those benefits and where you're getting your authorizations. So going into the authorization component of it, making sure that you have it. We do have instances where clients are getting their authorizations. However, when the authorizations are being sent with the claim, the payer is saying they don't have it. So this has been happening now with a particular payer for a little while, and it's all over, some of these chat groups. We all know that. So our best recommendation is when you get an authorization, one, make sure that if you don't get it emailed to you or in writing, make sure you take a snapshot of that authorization because it's not making it to the claim system. And this is happening on the United patients. We're having this happen there. So, it's just an issue that is going on and it needs to be resolved. And they are aware of it, but the resolution has not fully happened in all areas just yet. So, but make sure you confirm your authorizations and that they're valid before you provide the services. Keeping track of your authorization dates. If you don't have a software system, make sure you have some mechanism of tracking your dates and have a countdown. And I have a screenshot of something that I'm referring to in just a few minutes that we'll go over. CARC 29. This one really, really bothers me a lot because this is throwaway money. We're throwing money away. The timely limit is expired. It means that the time that the claim was submitted is beyond the payer's deadline. Anytime you have an agreement with a payer or you're submitting claims to the payer, it's your responsibility to know when the payer has a deadline for the claim to be filed. It is not their responsibility, it's your responsibility to know that. Create a spreadsheet that says, Anthem, timely filing this time. Blue Cross, whoever, Cigna, Aetna, whoever, timely filing is this date, and keep that up to date for your organization. If you have contracts, make sure you keep it up to date. So track and prioritize your claims, making sure that your submission is done. But there are other types of timely filing limits that we're going to just briefly review in a few minutes outside of just claim submission. But right now we're talking about claim denial CARC codes. So CARC B7 is the provider is not certified or eligible. This goes back to credentialing. And this means either they're out of network, they're not credentialed, they don't have the right certification for the ABA services. So make sure that your credentialing is done, that the team members that are providing the services are the ones that should be providing the services, and that there is not a mistake in the billing process so that you're not billing the wrong provider who provided the services. So you're not billing an incorrect provider. Many times what we see is it's not that the provider who is incorrect, it's how it was billed that is incorrect. It's a mistake, it's avoidable, it's a clerical mistake. So make sure that you are looking at any CARC B7s that come through and validate, is it a billing process? Is it a system switching things? Or is it a human process where we're putting something in the system incorrectly? And now we're going to get to the big one. This seems to be a catch-all for many things, and this is not exclusive to ABA. This denial code is a pain for every single type of service provider everywhere. So it is a catch-all. So does anybody have kids that play Pokemon? I have grandchildren, and so that's why I have the Pokemon thing down there, because this is just a catch-all. It's a gotcha. An attachment or other documentation is required for them to process the claim. So is this really a denial or is it a notification? Honestly, this is a notification. This is an opportunity for you to get the information back to them. But if you don't do it in the right amount of time, it is immediately a denial that turns into a timely filing denial. And I promise you, it will happen. So in the hospital industry, right now, the CARC 252s, right now, about 27% of CARC 252s are not responded to on time. And it's just lost money because the amount of requests that are coming back to healthcare organizations using this denial code is very high, and it has increased the administrative burden on organizations. And there is a lot of discussion about we've got to reduce the administrative burden. Payers are doing this so that they can get a denial and not get you paid, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a conspiracy theorist, you're probably right. I mean, if you're not a conspiracy theorist, you're still probably right. But this is a code that is overutilized, because if you take an analysis, and we've done this with a particular payer for a particular service and said, this service, 100 claims, you sent 73 CARC 252s. Of the 73, we replied back 73 times. Of 73 claims, you only denied 2 out of 73. You wasted your time and you wasted our time. So we did a payer report card and highlighted that as an issue that we had with this particular payer. And we did have that payer end up reducing some of the requests specifically for that service line. And it did improve that process, but it doesn't mean that they reduced it for all of the other service lines. We were just at a point to where we had to fight for that particular service line. It's like every single time we submitted a claim for that service, every single time it would come back. So you can make your case to the payers and you can hold them accountable as well. They have modifications that they can put into their software system that allows them to either release that CART 252 or allow the claims to go through. They have ways to have their software system assist with that administrative burden, but you have to go to them with a valid case. You have to make sure that you have a valid case and you have statistics to go and have that discussion with them. So common reasons in ABA therapy: missing treatment plan, authorization documentation, coordination of benefits, session notes, and coding errors. Again, it's the catch-all. Even though there is a CART denial for an authorization missing, a lot of times, many payers are just using CART 252. Oh, well, we're just missing information, because in some instances they know that's the catch-all, and there's so many requests that are out there. So sometimes the process with a payer is they'll do a CART 252, allow you 30 days to provide the information. If you don't provide the information, then they're going to turn around and deny using the other CART code for missing authorization. So is this a denial or is it an informational denial? Technically, this is an informational denial, but it will quickly turn into a denial. So you should treat it as a denial, because you must respond to these. You must provide whatever information they have, and you have a short time period to get it done. Because I don't know if you're going to send it snail mail, email, upload on their website, or what have you. You have to get the information together and get it to them. One of the things that I highly recommend is that you review the information before it is sent. I cannot tell you how many people turn around and just send information. They just use their the EMR, which is fantastic. We love EMRs. I'm not knocking EMR in any way, but they'll just pick the data service or pick that series of services for that patient, put it in a PDF, and upload it to the payer site. Payer will come back and deny it. And then when we start trying to do an appeal on it, what we'll find is that, oh, it's missing this, or this wasn't, the sentence for the treatment plan for that day wasn't even completed. So it's not a complete note. So anytime you're sending something to a payer, read what you're sending, evaluate it, because the last thing you want to do is have any flags that say, hey, they're really not even providing the right services. You don't want to have any flags on your documentation, your treatment plans, your organization. You want to make sure that you're providing them with the best information. It would be better to be perfectly honest, it would be better to end up appealing it later with clean documentation versus trying to just send documentation that is incorrect. So let it deny and then appeal the denial with the information. It's more work, a longer process, more time consuming, but it's better than just turning around and sending something that has not been validated and you're not sure is clean material. Okay. So I've gone through the top 6 denials. Take a little pause right here and see if there were any questions that I needed to answer at this point. We got, we're going to move into our next little section, but I just wanted to take a pause here and see if anybody had any questions really quick.
And y'all be sure to just drop your questions in the chat. Feel free to ask.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So CART 252, that missing information again. When I said earlier that there are remark codes, here's an example of remark codes. So at N479, missing explanation of benefits. Notes are missing from the claim submission. We're missing a summary of care, typically it's required for complex cases, or we're missing reports or chart notes that are essential for the claim. So you may have them deny with a CART 252 with additional remark codes. So just be aware, those remark codes are important because it gives you a little bit of information on what is going on and what they're looking for. Now, sometimes you still need more information, and it does necessitate a phone call to them to kind of clarify what they're looking for, because it may not make sense. And unfortunately, sometimes the team members that you get on the phone, the customer service team members, the first level customer service team members, they may not have all of the information, but you can escalate it beyond them to a second tier person if you're not getting those answers. All right, so mitigating that CARC 252, like I said, verify your documents, make sure you submit the attachments. Review those denial reasons. So review that remittance advices and your explanation of benefits. What is missing? And are you habitually missing those items? Why is it missing? Is it something with a provider? Is it something with your software system? Is it something with a process in your office? Or is it just a one-off? If it's a one-off, okay, but look for trends. You should always be looking for trends and looking for commonalities, because that's how you're going to prevent things in the future. That's how you avoid things, is if you have the mindset that you're looking for commonalities and trends, then you're going to be able to spot them and you're going to prevent them. And then streamline your workflow. Well, make sure you resubmit your claims with the information before the deadline, but streamline that workflow. I work by checklists. I cannot tell you how many checklists I have. I have a checklist for 3 different key functions of my job: sales, client operations, and other deliverables. And I keep up with that checklist every day. I take things off and then I put more things on. So I'm a checklist girl. That's just, back in the day, how it started for me, and it works for me. If you're not a checklist person, do what works for you or your team members. The first time you try it might not work out. Try something different. Just keep trying until you can figure out what is the best workflow or process in your office. How can you streamline what needs to be done in your office? So the impact, the average denial rate on ABA facilities is between 10 and 20%. And you might think to yourself, wow, that's really broad. I mean, why not 10 to 12%? 10 to 20% is a very broad statement. But while you only have, 10 codes that you're billing with, it depends on the codes that we're looking at, and it depends on the category of the denial reasons. A large part of denial reasons, if you want to take the credentialing piece, is because credentialing is incomplete, or because of that provider was not approved for that services, or somebody else provide the services. So when you look at the scope and the range of denial rates, 10 to 20%, depending on that payer mix of that practice and the types of denials you're getting, that's what is going on right now. There's not a large data analysis team at this point that's gathering all the data for ABA practices like we have for hospitals and health systems. So we have more data aggregators on statistics there. So there's not a lot of cohesive data aggregators at this point, but we're getting there. I know that there are some projects that are going to be kicking off that people are starting towards the end of this year. So I'm hoping that we'll have more cohesive data. I think that there's going to be some stuff that we'll be seeing at the national conference this year that I'm excited about as well. So of that 10 to 20%, 61% of them are considered avoidable. You remember I talked about avoidable and non-avoidable, what's avoidable and what's non-avoidable? 61% are considered avoidable. That's an impact that you can make in your organization. You can fix that. And that's what you need to focus on. If I can reduce that, what's that going to help me with? And I have an ROI for you in the handout that helps you determine what was your return on investment by fixing this? How did that improve my bottom line? Avoiding denials versus preventing denials. So incomplete or incorrect documentation. So just making sure that we have that. So authorization issues, we talked about this being something that can be avoidable. So I put you some tips in here about preparation. So verify your eligibility, your benefits, making sure that you have organized yourself, making sure that you've completed that request, that authorization request form, submit the request, keep a copy of your submission. and make sure that you have a copy of the email that you sent or the fax confirmation. It's really important that you track this information. So the patient details and verifying their eligibility and benefits, be sure that you understand what the benefits and the copays and the deductibles are. We still have patients that do call and say that, they really didn't understand their financial aspect of it. And most organizations really do have a good way of explaining this, but it's just patients don't always understand, and they don't understand. And when they get their bill is when they have the questions. So if you can provide them with something in writing, an estimate in writing, that is always the best course of action, is to provide an estimate in writing to a patient. So let's see here. Looking at your pre-authorizations and talking about that authorization itself, making sure that you can track your authorizations. And this is just an example of a software system that tracks an authorization. There are so many different versions of this. This just happens to be one that I took a snapshot of. Your software system can look different than this one. But most software systems that have an authorization process in it, it does have a tracking process. If it doesn't, a spreadsheet will do. Create a manual spreadsheet. If you're a small organization that's just starting out and you don't have a software system that does this, a small spreadsheet will do. Making sure that you're tracking, when did you send the request? When did you get the request back? Did they give you the authorization that you were looking for as far as visits? Does the visit and the authorization match exactly what you requested? Did they short you any visits, etc.? And then create a countdown. Well, we have 4 visits that are allowed. We are on the 3rd visit now, so they have 1 visit left. Do we need to ask for more visits? Do we need to extend this, re-request, what have you? What do we need to do at this point? So making sure that you have a tracking mechanism is really important, is going to help you. And then incomplete or incorrect documentation. A proper session note should include all of those items. That's not all inclusive. I mean, there are pieces and parts in there that you should also have, but this is the basis of your documentation. At a minimum, you should have all of this information in there. But I highly encourage you to educate your employees on standards of documentation, making sure that you do have standards and that you've evaluated and you continue to evaluate their documentation. Help them understand the coding guidelines, help them understand payer-specific criteria for ABA therapy and what does it mean. I'm sure that they know that, but sometimes we have brand new team members that are coming in and they may not know all of this information. So as an owner, operator, manager, what have you, you're going to be the one that's going to be their trainer. You're going to be the one that's going to be giving them that knowledge. The more thorough you are, the better equipped they are. The more you have set them up for success versus setting them up for failure. And that means your organization succeeds. And that's the most important part, is making sure that everybody succeeds, especially the patient. Those patients have to have a very strong team behind them in order to make the smallest difference in their lives, or the smallest little piece of improvement. So make sure that you continue to remember education over and over and over. So billing and coding errors, here's the biggest difference in a payment or a denial, is making sure that you have the right codes on that claim. So incorrect use of CPT modifiers or claim formats, those are all issues that we've seen. Incorrect modifiers, upcoding or unbundling. So we've seen instances where we've done a look back on clients and they've either upcoded or they've unbundled things because they thought that was how their claim could get through and get paid. That's not the answer. That is actually, in some instances, could be considered fraudulent. So you have to be very careful and not do something just for payment. You may not understand the magnitude of why or the repercussions to something like that, but you have to be very careful. And then lack of proper documentation, and then making sure that we understand the time-based coding rules. That is really important. And then the place of service. So I talked about that just a little bit ago about if you're providing telehealth services, there's a different place of service versus an office or a home setting. You have to make sure that those place of service settings or place of services are correct. So prevention is to conduct audits, ensure that the billing staff are updated, and use your claims scrubber. So a lot of good software systems have claim scrubbers, and using those claim scrubbers to help look for these items is really beneficial for you. So sometimes when you get a software system, it may say that they have all of these tools available for you, but what you don't realize is that you may have to go in and set some of them up. So that's why it's important for you to understand your denials. If you consistently get a denial from this particular payer saying that you're missing a modifier, put a rule in that claim scrubber that says, for this payer, I'm going to look for this modifier for this CPT code. And that way you'll never have to have a denial again. The claim will stop. You can correct the claim right then and send it out. That is how you utilize your tools to help you get a clean claim out the door and you get payment faster. And then conduct, again, quality audits. Treat each denial as a puzzle piece and determine what needs to be addressed. It is all puzzle pieces. And again, that's where I thrive because I love working on puzzles and I love fixing problems. It's something that makes me very happy. It's not for everybody, but it's for me. So we talked about this a few minutes ago about missing filing deadlines. It's more than just claim filing deadlines. So there's claim submission of requested information. That could be like a W-9, visit notes, etc. Disputing a payment amount. So when you get a remittance, in many managed care agreements that are out there or organizational agreements, they tell you you have 30 days to dispute your payment. If you don't dispute it within 30 days, then you have accepted this payment as payment in full. People don't realize that. And they don't dispute or review their payment amounts. They're not looking at them. And the same as denial disputes. You may have 120 days or 90 days to submit a claim, but guess what? That doesn't mean you have 90 days or 120 days to dispute a denial. You may only have 45 days to dispute a denial. So I have several clients that have an Aetna contract. They have 90 days to send their claim. They have 30 days to dispute a payment amount, 30 days to dispute a denial. They didn't realize that. They thought that they still had 90 days. Completely missed it on something that could have been recouped. And it took some serious work to go back and negotiate with Aetna on this technical issue that was going on. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, the contract itself won over the fact that they did not dispute this on a timely manner. So make sure you understand that there are different filing deadlines and timely deadlines. And the healthcare, the companies, you cannot avoid them because they have quarterly items that they have to report. They have to report what they've paid out. They have to report all of their information. So they have deadlines as well as we do. So it's not an open-ended process. There are deadlines that have to be met. So if you fail to meet these deadlines, you can lose serious revenue. That's what I really want everybody to understand. So preventing it is implementing reminders and tracking systems, prioritize your timely submission, confirm your software and clearinghouse that they can provide you with proof of timely filing limit documentation. So proof of timely filing limit means that you filed this claim to Aetna on January 15th and they received it on January 17th. So when they deny it, saying that it's denied for timely filing, you have proof you did submit this claim on time. What you have to be careful of is that you did not get one of those CARP 252s where they were asking for information and you didn't return the information, because that will be a proof, that will be a timely filing denial as well. They asked for information, you didn't return it. So that's considered a timely filing denial. So prioritize your request for information. Make sure you submit anything to the payer electronically if possible. Submitting things by mail is rolling the dice. I'll be perfectly honest. Anything that you want to submit by mail to a payer, you are rolling the dice. You may say, oh, I've never had a problem. You've never had a problem until you've had a problem. So in all of my years of experience, I just want to tell you, if you can submit it electronically, whether it's through fax, upload it on a portal, send it through a secured email, etc., do that, because then you have a tracking mechanism. And again, another form of proof of timely filing. So follow up timely on everything. Make sure that you're following up on everything. And then do a denials analysis. Analyze your denied claims and your trends, and then address your root causes. So this is really important. Categorizing your denials. I've listed right there the common areas that you want to look at: authorization, documentation, coding, billing, or eligibility and benefits. Focus on those top areas. And then it matters because those are your most frequent and costly denial reasons. You're going to be able to focus on what came to the top. What is it? What are the ones that are costing me the most money or costing me the most problems? If you categorize it and you're looking that way, then you're going to be able to see it, versus just not seeing the forest because of the trees, or not seeing the trees because of the forest, or what have you. You're just doing one by one. You cannot survive doing that. Determine your root cause. Make sure that you identify what is it. Is it a missing treatment plan? Was it the authorization? What was the issue? And fix that. And then take corrective action. Don't just identify it and say, oh, well, now we know why it happened. You missed the point. You didn't finish the project. You have to prevent it from happening. You have to make sure that it's not going to happen again. So corrective action, fixing it, and then ensuring that it does not happen again, and going back and reevaluating it in 30, 60, and 90 days to see, are we still getting denials for that reason? That's how you close the loop properly on making sure you can avoid denials. So metrics to measure to help you with this. Here's your benchmark goals for ABA providers. Denial rate less than 5 or 10%. First pass resolution rate. You submit a claim is clean, and we're not having any problems, or we submit information, it's clean, we're not having any problems. Great. We've submitted this information you asked for. We've got a 90% approval rate, so first pass resolution is 90%. Appeal success rate. So if you're appealing claims and you have a 10% recoverable rate on your appeals, then there's something seriously wrong. Either you're not writing the proper appeal, you're not providing the correct information, or you're just appealing anything and everything and just praying that something's going to happen. Something is wrong. So the last thing that you want is to have an appeal rate less than 30%, because there's something fundamentally wrong with the services and the billing process, or the entire stream of services and that workflow that has to be addressed. Appealing is not addressing whatever it is the issue is. And then denial write-off rate below 2 to 3%. Yeah, below 2 to 3%. Once you go through all of these steps of avoiding and preventing denials, you should have a denial write-off rate of less than 2 to 3%. That doesn't mean if you are going to give an administrative adjustment discount that's counted in here. We're talking about just denial write-off rates. That includes timely filing, a bundled, or something to that effect. It should be below 2 to 3%. So there is a handy formula for calculating and tracking items that I have provided that you guys will have access to. But here's some additional resources that you can use. So use the Medical Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act to your advantage when you're appealing or working on authorizations and you're talking to payers, et cetera. Make sure you understand the benefits that it has in there for you. And the benefits, actually, it's not for you, but it's the benefits for the patients and their families. And, you are the steward of that. And you're the person that is helping those patients and family members get the services that they provide. So ensuring that you understand that and your team members understand that is important. And then there's some amazing guidelines from the autism spectrum guidelines that you can review, and practice guidelines from APBA. Those are all really, really great things. And then I cannot tell you enough, this amazing handbook that was put together. Just type this in, the ABA Authorization and Appeals Handbook. Some extremely knowledgeable, talented, and amazing people put this handbook together specifically for ABA organizations. This tells you a lot of information that you need on authorizations and appeals related to authorizations. It's really a good handbook that you can have. So just Google it. It's right there and available for you. And that is all that I had for you guys. I know I put a lot of information in here, and I know I talked fast through some of it. I'm from the South, and we typically talk fast anyway, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
That's awesome. Really good information, Stacy. So one thing we've been focusing on in the group that we see missing from just about every ABA that we're dealing with, except for like the big ones, the private equity, right? When private equity moves in, one of their strengths is their organizational strategy.
Mhm.
And as we all know, they have a lower quality of care. And the reason for that is their organizational strategy is focused on profit alone. That's pretty much it, right? So
Yeah.
they have to provide some decent level of quality to keep from getting sued, and that's really part of their risk management, not really the quality of care. But one of the like what you've given us really good content here for is when we're building our SOPs for our revenue cycle management and how the actual mechanism of our billing process works is making sure that you're preventing wasted time on the front end. And this is where we, as a business owner, we have our system that we're running our business on, and we have those operating procedures. And what we should be in a position to do is come on to a live stream like this, gain information, go back and look at our standard operating procedures and improve those little by little, inch by inch. So really great information, and we do appreciate your time. Did anybody have any questions for Stacy? Well, it's pretty clear presentation. Like you laid it out pretty well.
I tried really hard, but the best thing, like you said, Derek, is just leverage the information and make it your own based on your organization side, based on your patient population, based on what you are doing and your software system, your clearinghouse, your payers. You can't take a big box and say, okay, well, this is going to work for me. No, it doesn't work that way, because your patients are different. Your thought process is different, and your team is different, and you want to do things that will benefit that group of people. So make sure that you have, if your top 5 payers are Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, Blue Cross, Anthem, whatever, Caroline, whoever, get down and dirty with their information. Get down and dirty with your your procedure codes, your CPT codes that you're billing, and understand, okay, I have billed out 75 of these CPT codes. What is my average payment? And are they paying on all of them? And if they're not, how do they compare to each specific payer? I might have a contract, but it doesn't mean that I'm getting paid. I need to understand that. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing a payment analysis and how you do a payment analysis like that. So if you want some more information on how to do some kind of payment analysis like that, I'll be back and providing some information on that. But in the meantime, you can look and see how they're doing from a denials analysis. So do your own mini denials analysis and see where you stand in your organization.
In a past life, I've done business coaching and consulting for a long time, but in a past life, but now we just do ABA and that's it. But in a past life, I worked with a boat builder. They fixed up old boats, they built new boats, they repaired boats. This is we're in South Florida, so it's a big business. And we sat down, we looked at the services that they were delivering, and we figured out that they were making most of their money doing preventative maintenance service on motors for boats, like oil changes. They're building $2 million boats for people, and their profits on those were nil, high risk, very difficult. But the owner of the company was shocked. Like he thought he needed to be going to boat shows and selling these big boats and everything. When it turns out he really needed to be marketing oil changes, right? Because that's really where they were making their money, where their profit was coming from. And it's important, we have this term EDS that floats around in our team all the time, right? Your executive decision support, being able to get the data, do the analysis, figure out exactly where your profit is coming from. If you're not making a profit, you're not going to be able to help anybody, right? So really kind of diving in and figuring out what those areas are that you need to focus on to make sure that your business is profitable and make sure that you're doing what you're getting paid for in a way that you're going to not run into cash flow issues. So
Yeah.
really important stuff. And this exemplifies exactly what this group is all about, like diving into a specific topic, giving our ABA owners a way to sharpen their knives and cut a little bit deeper into their business and make that bigger positive impact on their community and our society. So we really appreciate your time, Stacy. This is awesome.
It was my pleasure. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day and talk to some of you guys in a few weeks.
All right. And if anybody came late, tell your friends. We're going to have this recording up in the next couple days here. Hopefully today, but maybe not until the end of the day tomorrow. So give us some time to edit, get it cleaned up, and post on the group. Stacy, thank you. Thank you everybody for showing up. We love you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're already doing the work, investing your time, your energy, and your vision. So let's make it count. Build something that works without breaking you. The EBCBA Blueprint is the way. Get started for free with our foundation course.